Okay, we should be live for our weekly show here on the Game Wisdom channel. Welcome everybody if you're joining this live or recorded. I am still Josh Placer, and this is our show where we discuss game design and industry topics. Joining me is indie game developer Shark. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Shark is still unfortunately computerless while he's waiting for his parts to come. But he has been spending a lot of time on mobile, and I believe he's become addicted to a new game.
Sadly, but I'm enjoying it, and it is having some benefits. Like what game projects is based off of that this game is based off of, and while none of the systems are giving me ideas or anything, just playing it and being in that atmosphere is like, oh, I just figured out something for my game. And
So,
it's a really unique kind of tactical RPG where knockback and obstacles are a thing, where you can like take somebody and you hit them hard enough that they go flying through a building, and then they take damage based on the building, and the terrain changes based on that.
nice. Yeah, so by next week, Shark will probably have to spend like $800 in the game.
I better not have.
I'm going to get a message. Project Tri has been delayed due to loot box openings.
Luckily, there's no loot boxes in there.
Oh, at least that's good. But it's still very much pay to win, right?
Yeah, it's very much pay to win. I mean, there is a gotcha mechanic, but it's like just this one little subsystem kind of thing, and it's not really important.
Hmm.
And and you get many free chances. Well, I wouldn't say many. You get pretty much enough that there's not really any point in paying for it.
Mm-hmm. All right, but it is a very quiet weekend so far. Not a lot of people seem to be on stream or doing things. It's been, of course, crazy during the week, obviously, between things going on in the country, and of course the PS5 had its big reveal.
Yeah, I didn't see that. Oh,
Yeah, I didn't really
I'm
pay
completely in
attention.
the dark.
And I didn't really pay attention to it either. The only thing I know out of is there's another Marvel Spider-Man, another Horizon Zero Dawn, and they're remastering Demon Souls.
Yeah. All I know is I think the PlayStation 5 has this new sort of revolutionary SSD drive in it
Mm-hmm.
that isn't faster than any of our, any PC stuff. I mean, it's faster than a lot of PC stuff, but it's not faster than all of it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a new technology that basically, it seems like, allows like uh like lesser SSDs to be a lot faster
Hmm.
than they are right now in PCs. So if we could get that technology into the PC space, then maybe our big SSDs will be a little bit faster, and our small SSDs will be a lot faster,
Yeah.
which is interesting. Well, maybe not a lot, but
No.
20% maybe.
Well, I guess like the big thing is there's only so much. There's only so far you can really go with graphics wise. I think the consoles are going to have to start stepping things up performance wise in the future.
Yeah, I mean, like, graphics have really two limitations.
Mm-hmm.
One is how much work your artist is putting into it, and two, how much RAM can you use? How much RAM does it use?
Mm-hmm.
How much RAM and based off of how much RAM it's going to use, determines on basically kind of how much processor it's going to use. Unless you're constantly loading things in and out, and then you're using a lot more processors. And then the question is, can you do that fast enough without
Mm-hmm.
causing the FPS to kill?
Yep. Let's see.
But mainly, it's about the artist.
Mm-hmm. But they did say like some of like with the new Ratchet and Clank, they're going to allow for almost like seamless loading between areas, which, as somebody who saw like Bloodborne and some of the other PS4 games like kind of strain on their long loading times, that's definitely a major point. It's still not at the PC level yet, but at least it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah. All that is basically dumping out stuff out of the RAM and then loading more stuff into the RAM.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, anything else going on? Well, we did get the surprise announcement that Persona 4 has been ported to PC. And, like, I think this just came out of nowhere. I didn't even know about it. I'm on Atlus's press list. And it's kind of a big deal to see Atlus, really pushing for their JRPGs to go onto the PC.
Yeah. I've never played any of them. I was going to get into Persona 5, and then that whole controversy hit, and I was like, yeah, staying away from that.
Yeah. And there's even, I think they're going to do like simultaneous release for Yakuza 7 by Sega. So, I mean, I think we finally gotten out that stigma of, Japanese games aren't going to do well on the PC.
Yeah. And, maybe we'll actually get some RPGs on Steam.
Mm-hmm.
Real RPGs. Not the, the fake American RPGs that have nothing to do with RPGs. Can we have that discussion real quick? Like we all know what a tactical RPG is because there's no controversy there. Nobody's claiming that a tactical RPG is something that's not. Now then, when we look at back in the day, before all these genres came up, that a RPG was the same thing as a tactical RPG, just without the grid-based movement kind of thing, and an action RPG was the same as an RPG, just with action-based combat system. But now they've muddied the water with what a action RPG is and what a RPG is, because like Skyrim, like that's more of a sandbox game than a RPG. Diablo's like its own genre kind of thing. It's not an action RPG in my opinion. It's a Diablo-like.
Oh, good. Let's muddy those waters some more.
Well, I mean, like it's not an action RPG.
Like, The Witcher's probably more of an action RPG now.
Probably.
Again, I'll have to tackle that at some point when I do an ARPG book.
Yeah.
Let's see. Any other big news this week? Of course, we're going to be talking about the itch bundle as one of our first topics. Let's see.
Yeah.
Resident Evil becomes first Capcom franchise to surpass 100 million in sales. So I guess it's good for them. And they did announce there's going to be an RE8. Hey, Chris, how are you doing?
Was there ever a doubt that there was going to be an RE8?
Oh, I thought we were going to get Resident Evil 2 Code Veronica, Resident Evil 2 4, Resident Evil 2 5, Resident Evil 2 6 first.
I mean, we're all going to get that still. But was any of that ever a doubt?
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that may have been a doubt is the order, which I wasn't posting any kind of preference on the order.
What we need is, we'll be surprised if we get Resident Evil 2 Mega Man X3. Just bring Resident Evil into Mega Man. It's already in Monster Hunter. They already did that event.
Well, they have multiple teams, so they should be able to tackle many of them at the same time. And then it's just whichever ones get out first.
I'm wondering if we'll get another expansion to Monster Hunter World, or if they're working on a new game.
No clue on that.
Well, that is it became one of their best-selling games right there.
And then it might get another expansion.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. I'm trying to think if there's any other major. Still working on the books. one of my presentations got pushed back, and because of the Steam Festival getting pushed back, my sponsored play will be Tuesday and this Saturday coming up of an indie game. So I'm going to have to get good in front of the developers.
Oh, so you're doing it live?
Oh, yes.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
You said Tuesday?
Yep.
Is it Tuesday night?
Yep, it'll be the Tuesday stream. Tuesday and Saturday stream.
Maybe I'll have a computer at that point because supposedly I'm getting my parts in Tuesday. Supposedly. Well, I've already got some of my parts in. I've already got my motherboard, my RAM, my keyboard and mouse, which I didn't expect to be here for another month.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was shipping, from far away, and it's like, yeah, the delivery time is July, and then it came here the same day that my motherboard and RAM did, which my motherboard and RAM was a day late. I paid expedited shipping on it, and I got regular shipping instead. Same thing with my processor and tower or case. I was supposed to get that on Friday. Again, I paid expedited shipping. Apparently, it won't be here till Tuesday, which is regular shipping.
Yeah, I know.
Which I've already put in requests for refunds for the shipping cost.
Yeah, because it's very quiet today. I'm not sure where everybody is.
I don't either.
Shark.
I scared them all.
Sharks, your motherboard on your computer fried, right? Or it died?
Yeah, it died because I shut off. Basically, it had one too many on-off cycles. Like there were signs that the motherboard was going to go a long time ago, because I think it was about 2 years ago or 3 years ago, something like that. We had this really bad storm, and I was using my PC. I think I was a live streamer or something, and I had everything through UPC and everything, so everything surge protected, battery backup, everything. I figured I was fine, and then all of a sudden I got this big spark that looked like it came from my motherboard, and my system shut down, and then my system came back up, and it was fine. And 3 years later, it's not giving me any problems. I shut it down and then started. And it says I can't find your hard drive or your keyboard or your mouse, but I can find your graphics card and your monitors. And it was basically 6 years old, because I got it in very, very late 2014. It was like, I think, October, November 2014. So, I mean, it had a good long life. I just wasn't expecting it to die. And, dying during the coronavirus has made it really hard to get another one.
Yeah. And again, my microphone is somewhere right now. I have no idea where.
Probably still waiting for the factory to open.
Yeah.
Or maybe the factory's just now opening to make some more.
But I think with that, let's get to our first topic, because there's not much else I think that's interesting. You want to start with itch or go into low price? I think either one can kind of piggyback off the other.
Yeah. I think maybe we go with low price games, because I think that'll feed into itch better than the itch will feed into that.
Okay, sure. So, since we have some questions in chat, right, what we're talking about in terms of low price design is this idea of explicitly designing a game, as Chris said, on the cheap. That you're purposely making a game that it's not going to be a big seller. You have no, illusions. What was that?
I think I lost you. Oh. You said that and then I lost.
I think I'm still. I don't think it was on this end. But what I was saying is that this is a game, you're designing a game with no intention of this being a massive seller. You're not designing the next Call of Duty. You're not thinking you're going to compete with No Man's Sky. This is about designing a game on the cheap. You are going to do everything that you can to cut costs, and you're going to release it very cheap as well. When we say cheap, we're probably talking, what would you say, Shar? You think $10 or less or $5 or less?
Well, I mean, like, generally what you see in these games, you see these games at less than 15, at less than 14.99. You know, 14.99, 14.98 and less kind of thing is generally where you see these games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, like, whenever we have this discussion about price, the standard price of a game, that fluctuates almost on a month-by-month, year-by-year basis. I mean, a few years ago, $9.99 was considered the standard indie price. A few years after that, it became $14.99. Let me see. I think you're a little bit low. I think they're saying you're a little bit low.
You're going to have to do that on your site because I ain't got no control over my phone.
Alright, I will pump Shark up a little bit here. Let's see if that works.
Pump it up.
But, yeah, and then, as we were saying now, we're seeing a standard price of about, like, $19.99, $24.99. Seems to be what a lot of indie games are going for these days. But...
And I think there's a good reason for that. Number one is, I think indies have gone down in price too low to begin with, and we need to rebound from that. And the other thing is with the current market being flooded the way it is, I mean, you're getting less sales, so you need to make more from each sale to be able to survive.
Yep. Is that any better, Chris? I raised him up quite a bit. But to that point, like we've said, like the thing about low-cost games originally was this idea that, again, we're going to flood the market. We're going to release our games so cheap that, it's that ever popular that, you would be foolish to, not buy this game. It's a $2 game. It's a 99-cent game. It's even a free game. But the problem, as we've said, is that so many games have been released these days that you're never going to have the time to play it. And this is, again, why this is a springboard for the itch bundle that we'll talk about after the Weird Games segment. That these games are priced at $2.99, $1.99, whatever. You can't go by low price anymore as a selling point for your game. And then...
Yeah, there's tons of asset flips that go on there for 99 cents.
Yeah. And even...
there's lots of competition there.
And even then, like, when we play some of these low-price games, you can really see where the corners have been cut. Now, again, like, this audience, Shark and I, we know, like, we're not caring about Unreal, 4K HD graphics on an indie game. But when you release a game without volume slider, when you release a game without a menu, and things like that, it just shows, a huge drop in quality. And I
think those things are more of devs' inexperience because it doesn't take much work to put those in.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's a budgetary concern. And the other thing we need to make a clarification here is we're not saying that you can't make a low budget game. I mean, like, I am doing that very thing right now. We're saying that you can't make a low quality, low price game kind of thing. Or maybe not even a mid quality, low price game. You need the quality to be high, and when you do high quality, you need a higher price.
Yeah.
Because mid quality with a low price, that low price isn't really a selling factor.
Yeah.
I mean, it may be for a few people kind of thing, but it isn't for everybody kind of thing. Like I do know these people, friends of mine that only buy games that are $10 or less,
Mm-hmm.
and you know I don't ever hear anything about any of their games because they don't brag about any of them. They just play it and then move on to the next one.
Yep. And
And but like people playing $15 games. It's like, man, I found this one really awesome game. Let me tell you about it.
yeah, I mean, look at Monster Train for $25. That Shadow Tactics game was priced, I think, 34 at launch.
Yeah,
And
that's probably too much.
yeah, and again, pricing your game too high—that's another topic that we're not getting into today. But
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that we're seeing is that when you're pricing your game so low, and that when you start trying to cut too many corners with your design, that the fact that you have a game existing is not enough to convince people to buy it anymore. And
Yeah.
this is one of those things I think, as you
But,
said a second ago, regarding like first time developers, it's something I
mhm.
think a lot of people need to understand. That,
Yeah.
well, and this is one of the things I'm probably gonna make a few enemies on Twitter about this, or on like
Uh,
Facebook and Reddit groups. Like I see people who they post a screenshot of their first game, or they're so excited they made this game and it looks horrible. And I see like all these other developers going, "Oh, that looks amazing! That's great! Oh my god, that's great! You're going to do so well!" And I'm just sitting here going, "That's going to be a colossal failure." And
mm-hmm.
the problem is that,
You can tell
again,
it from the aesthetics
yeah,
and the UI.
oh yes, and this is unfortunately that issue when it comes to releasing a game. We've said this before. There is a very big difference between releasing a game and actually releasing a game that's going to earn money, or you're going to release a product. And
Mm-hmm.
and in the past we've said art versus the business, and it's not, I think that phrase doesn't work anymore. As we've said before, you have to look at both the art and the business when it comes to being successful.
Absolutely.
And one of my favorite developers was a Z from Serenity Forge, who told me that. He said that there's as much art in the business as there is business in the art. And to Chris's comment, what was the downfall? The downfall is just the overall look of these games. That nothing about these games screams quality. It doesn't show me something that is going to wow the consumer. Now, again, it's important to clarify that when I'm looking at a game, I am not your general consumer. The people who have 40 games in their backlog doesn't match somebody with 3,000 games in their backlog. But there's this thing that I've said before, like when I look at games like Slay the Spire, Dead Cells, Monster Train, that when I play them, I can see very quickly that there's something special about them. That this is a game that's going to do well. And usually when I get that gut feeling about a game, it has come true. Right now, Monster Train is sitting at over 5,000 reviews on Steam. Something like Vision Software said, there's my game of the day, is sitting at 25. And the thing is that Vision Software said, that's a game I really like. It is a well-designed game. But you look at any of those screenshots, and it is not going to wow. Yeah, it's not going to wow consumer. It's not giving them something that makes them go, "Oh my god, I need to play this game."
Yeah, and we had the same thing with that with my word of the day, Chromasia, because you look at the screenshots for that, and you're like, like I messed up, but all developers mess up.
Yep.
And there are many parts of game development that does not have a right answer or a wrong answer.
Yep.
or maybe it just has a no right answer, but like millions of wrong answers. Like there's all different kinds of things, but you have to wow them with your screenshots and your trailers because
Mm-hmm.
that is what they're going to do. That's what they're going to be looking at to if they're even going to hit that buy button. Now, then the gameplay and everything is what's going to keep them from hitting that the
Mm-hmm.
refund button.
Yeah.
But if you can't even get them, if you can't wow them with the
Mm-hmm.
screenshots and trailer and get them in the door in the first place, nothing else matters.
Yep.
And that's kind of what happened with my last game.
It's what
We
it's.
couldn't wow them, but like everybody who got in the door seemed
Mm-hmm.
to really enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah, and what you just said there is echoed by many indie developers, and
Mm-hmm.
that's always been one of the downsides of being an indie dev, that you enter that situation where the people who do play your game, they love the hell out of it. They are your hardened fans.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else, though, has no idea who you are, has never heard of your game, and they will never hear of your game. And
Yep.
that's what Chris said there. Half the
Unless
success
they
is
come to
gained.
this podcast.
Yeah. Half success is gained discovered by your audience. The other half is converting your audience into a sales force. And it's hard. Again, like, I am not a marketer by any means whatsoever, and I struggle with that every day, and so does anyone who hasn't had that blow up success. And again,
And I'm trying to learn to be one.
and that's the thing about this, is it does only take one blow up success, and you are in. Like we've
Yeah,
said.
once you have one blow up success and you have that fan base and everything,
Mhm.
you can pretty much coast after that. I mean,
Yeah.
like you can make you don't have to make the great games anymore. You can make decent games and they will continue to sell. I mean, like we've seen that
Mhm.
with FTL. Like FTL blew up huge, and then their next game, Into the Breach,
Yeah.
was nowhere near as good. It was not a bad game by any means. It was still a good
Mhm.
game, but it was not great or like god tier like FTL
Yeah.
was. And I think Into the Breach sold better than FTL
Yeah. Of course. It's again,
because
like, I should have my discussion with Rami Ishmael up very soon, and we talk about this. Nuclear Throne was a breakout success for Vombeer. If it was released today, and they had no other clout to their name, it would have dive bombed.
mm-hmm,
And it is.
as market change.
Yep. And one of the challenges, again, is proving to people that your game is worth their time. And like we've said, like,
Yeah, I mean
ultimately,
we see so many times where people compare themselves to old games like, oh,
Mhm.
well, Minecraft succeeded. I was like, and it doesn't look amazing. It's like,
Mhm.
yeah, well, Minecraft released how many years ago?
Like 2009, I think, 2008,
I think it released before Steam even existed.
yeah. And
And the marketplace changed by like leaps and bounds the day that Steam came into the world, and it changed leaps
mhm,
and bounds every year that Steam ever existed as they changed their stuff and opened up more and more.
yeah.
And now, I mean, like that might as well be like like
Mhm,
the Stone Age kind of thing.
yep.
It's like back in the Stone Age, you could
It
take a spear
uh,
and kill an animal and you'd be fine.
it just
You do that today and you go get put in jail.
yeah. And to Chris's point, Minecraft wasn't selling graphics; it was just selling a world you could change. Exactly. Minecraft was the.
Well, no
What was that?
no game is really selling graphic.
Mhm.
They just have to have graphics in order to sell.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah, but again, Minecraft was the first breakout example. It is similar to the FTL example. How many games have tried to copy FTL in design or structure, and it doesn't work as well? And
mhm,
this is again like another point about this low price or low value design. That if there's one area that you cannot skimp on, well, there's actually two. One is the aesthetics, and the second is the gameplay. You can't sell me the 50-cent version of FTL. That
Yeah.
doesn't work.
Yeah, because why would you play that when you got FTL?
Yep. And again, even if FTL is considered full price or quote unquote full price, FTL is actually priced at $10. That you
Yeah.
get so much out of that. And again, this is the nightmare when it comes to pricing video games. Hi, Igor. That why should if I spend $2.99 or your game, but for like $3 more, I could get like Doom 2016 on sale, or for a few more dollars more, I could get Mortal Kombat 11 or Skyrim. You know, the whole price argument becomes this quagmire of comparisons.
Yeah. You can. There's like you could compare like 7 Days to Die. I think I paid $20 for 7 Days to Die
Mm-hmm.
several years ago, and I have like I don't know like probably close to 2,000 hours in that game. None of it being AFK time because
Yep.
I actually shut off my games instead of going AFK.
Yeah.
But you know, and you look at another game that I paid $5 for, spent like 2 minutes on, and then got done with it. Never went back and touched it again.
Yeah. Um, Going back to my discussion with Tomo the other last week about ARPGs, that if you look at a game only at the surface level and say, you know what, I could make the cheaper version of that, and you don't understand the design or what people want from that genre, your game is going to fail. Because
I think you should never be looking to make a cheaper version of anything.
yeah, but
I
that
think you should be looking to make a better version or a unique
mhm,
version of the thing that would be different, and
mhm.
then do that as cheaply as you can to fit your budget.
Yeah, and that I think is a really good segue into we were talking about Tim Ruswick, Game Dev Underground,
Hmm.
that he's working on his second full retail or full release game at the moment, and
Or kind of third, but because he kind of
oh yeah,
shelved one.
yeah, and his kind of mo right now is I think he's spending 3 months to design a game, and
3 to 6 months, I think.
6 months, okay. He's spending
3 to 6.
somewhere around there, and he's trying to make it as low of a budget as he can without skimping on the gameplay. So he's doing stuff like I remember we had this discussion on our last live show that it's going to be a game where you can convert the enemies into your team. 3 months to design, 3 months to polish. Okay, thank you, Chris. So what he basically said was by doing it this way, he basically saves on time developing assets because every enemy asset is an ally asset. And
Yeah, he's trying to use everything that he puts in there
mm,
many times over and not just put in these one-time use things.
yeah, and to Chris's question about if the expensive version doesn't run on a lot of people's hardware, so a cheaper version might be better. Again, it
Not
de-
necessarily.
it depends on what that it depends really, I think, on what you're skimping out on. Because again, if you're
Yeah, I mean
trying to design, yeah,
the
go.
cheaper version might run harder, or might be harder to run because
Well,
you got like the legit version of maybe a Fallout, not a Fallout again, a Half-Life game, right? Runs great and
mhm,
everything. And then you got the what was the Finding Freeman or whatever. What was that
something like
one?
Black Mesa. No,
No, no, no. The one that had all the controversies around it. The Finding Freeman
mm,
or something. I
don't
forget what it
remember.
was. But
Mhm,
anyway, you had that one, and it ran like dog crap.
mhm.
And it was a cheaper version, and you know, and it even stole assets and everything,
Hunt down
and
the
it was
Freeman.
really cheap.
Okay, and
And
To Chris's comment, Fortnite is a cheaper version of Overwatch. I think Fortnite is the more expensive version of PUBG.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, it also the timing is a very big point. But to get back to Tim's to the Tim example here, Tim is a marketer by trade. He did marketing and PR and social media stuff as his job. He understands, how much money can go into these games, and he knows. I think he knows probably better than a lot of first time or starting out indie developers about, how to make the most out of his money.
Yeah, and he also is a good programmer, a good artist, a lot of things. He's a very omni-talented person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fairly omni-talented myself, but I'm nowhere near as omni-talented as Tim, because Tim does solo development, and solo development is usually suicide. But Tim actually makes it work, kind of thing. Tim has one of the best shots. He could be the next exception, like Stardew Valley kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But a lower tier kind of thing. But not everybody has are omni-talented.
Yeah.
And most people aren't. And even if they are, more than likely, they slack in some areas. Like, I very much slack in art, and I'm trying to get that up.
Mm-hmm.
And you can look at our last game trip for that one.
Yeah.
But like the you don't want to go off of exceptions, though.
Yeah. And
you want to go off of the norm.
And again, the point that we're bringing up is that even though Tim is doing this as low cost as he can, he's not skimping on the areas that matter. He's trying to make a different take on a tactical strategy game. He's trying to do something that you don't normally see. And that is one of the major things here. That, again, this is where we get to our safely extreme example. That you have to be cheap enough that you can finish this game and that you can do it, as quickly as you can, but you still need to put in the time to make something of quality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, we can look at my current game, that's on a very, very, very insanely low budget that, was a miracle to pull off.
Mm-hmm.
And I have skimped in several areas. Like, you look at card games and everything, when they come out and everything, the first set normally has 200, 300 cards in it.
Yeah.
Probably even, upwards of 400 in some of them. And that's a lot of art. And art costs money.
Mm-hmm.
So I've cut out bit by bit. Originally it was 250, and that, because I didn't want to go too big. And then I went, eventually cut down to 220, and then 250, and then 280, and then 270, and then I finally got that. After a long time, I finally got down to 150 cards, and I figured out that is a bare minimum that we can possibly do.
Mm-hmm.
Because any less than that, we're going to lose variety.
Yeah. And to Igor's point again about if you're making a cheaper version or anything, what is your unique selling point? And again, this is that line you have to walk as a developer. That, as we've said, you can certainly work on your take of a beat-em-up, a strategy game, an RPG, a platform, or whatever, but you have to be able to answer that question of why should I play your version of it? And to your other question, Igor, about the name of the game, it's Chromasia Rock Paper Scissors Tactics.
Rock paper tactics.
Rock Paper Tactics, and
rock paper tactics.
Oh, and still not an official name on Project Triad yet.
Very, very close. I think I know it. Well, I assume I know the final name, but I need more confirmation. We talked about it in the dev chat. It was almost unanimous. We only had 4 people there. So,
Mm-hmm.
3 people voted for that name as their first, and the other one voted as their second favorite, and it was my favorite. So it's probably set, but still need a little bit more verification before we set it in stone.
Yeah. And uh, talking more about, again, like trying to cut costs. As we said before, there are a lot of games that have that asset flip kind of look to them. Some of them because they really do just take assets. But like we've said,
there's nothing wrong with using assets, though.
No.
Using assets can be a good thing. And the thing about using assets, though, is you can't leave them the same kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could technically leave one of them the same kind of thing, but you can't leave all of them the same because they all need to match well and be in the same style as each other. So, like, if you buy one asset that looks like it's out of comic book, you buy another asset that looks like it's out of a pixel art kind of thing, and you buy another asset that looks like it's out of 2D. You got to take those 3 assets and
Mm-hmm.
pick a style and mesh them all into that style, convert them, and change them. Maybe you want it to be all pixel art, and you can just take those high res ones, downsize them, and then touch them up and tweak them and whatnot. Like,
you can't just take an asset and do nothing to it and put into your game.
Not unless you're getting all the assets from the same exact person for the same that are of the same exact style, because that would be essentially like hiring an artist. But the likelihood of finding such a complete set that is tailor made to your game, basically nothing.
Yeah.
But you could find a fairly complete set potentially, and then take that fairly complete set and hire an artist, do the art yourself or whatever, and complete out rest of the assets in that style that they've already started, and then you don't have to change any of that.
Yeah.
But it all depends. But every style in your game has to match. And I didn't use any assets in Promega except for the title screen and the sound effects. But man, does it look like I use assets?
Yeah.
Because there's so many mismatched styles in there, and we got called an asset flip so many times.
Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure even Monster Train got called an asset flip by somebody too.
Probably.
Yeah, and
wouldn't surprise me with Steam nowadays.
Yeah.
Every game's an asset.
Every game's a visual novel too.
Yeah.
And it's very tough. Again, and one of the things I want to talk about is this idea again that if you're purposely designing a quick game, or something that's supposed to be $2.49, $1.43, we've seen games or you've seen developers who will release a game that they know explicitly that this is going to be a short game. It could be an experimental game, could be a 2 hour long story, and they'll price their game at $2. And like we've said, even if you do everything you can and price it low, that may still not be enough to convert people to play it.
Yeah, it's price is no longer a selling point.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it ever was, but it definitely isn't now. Price is just a hurdle.
Mm-hmm.
And that hurdle has to be jumped by your screenshots and your trailer. And if your screenshots and trailer screams out, hey, these are a bunch of assets that I bought on the storefront, they're not even going to jump a hoop that's, a hurdle that's free.
Yeah. And to Chris's point, that there is the if it's cheap, it must be bad mentality. And yep, that is definitely true. I know Tim has thought about this as well. That,
yeah,
and it's something that even I run into when people ask me to do consulting work or look at their games. That part of me thinks I'm just going to say I'm as cheap as possible, but then you think why is this person doing this for, let's say, 50% less than the standard or 75% less than the standard? Again, what's wrong with this? The ever popular adage, if it's too good to be true, it must be, or there must be some, whatever that adage is.
Yeah.
And people, again, like we said, people expect a level of quality with their games. They don't care if your game is, $2.99 or $29.99. They expect, and in some cases they may expect too much, but you have to be able to prove to people that your game is worth its price. In many cases, honestly, you have to prove to people it's probably worth more than what you're pricing it as.
Yeah, exactly. And and since there's a statistic on Steam that says if you drop out all the assets, flips, all the the bad, after you drop out all the bad players and all the oh, this was a university project kind of thing. Once you drop out all those kinds of things off of Steam and everything, they cataloged all those games and sorted them by price point. And out of those games, when you consider success to failure ratio, and success being that they broke even, was able to make another game, the success rate, comparatively, was percent at under $15 and 99% at $15 and above. And when I say $15, I mean $14.99.
Yeah.
But like if your game is $14.99 or above, you have a more likely chance of survival. That said, you're going to have to make a game that is worth
exactly
more than $14.99.
Yeah. And
it's going to have to be graphically appealing.
And the gameplay has to be on
trailer.
Point. Yep.
Your screenshots and trailer have to sell that $15 hurdle or more, $15 or more hurdle. And if your screenshots and trailers do not sell that high, then it's a doomed game.
Unless, of course, it gets picked up by Markiplier or PewDiePie.
And even then, it still might die because going back to Tim's game was picked up by Game Theory.
Yep.
And Game Theory is massive and everything. And Tim said that a ton of people watch that. I don't know how many people, but it was probably a few 100,000, if not 1 million, people watch that. And he said there was not even a blip on his cell. So he couldn't even tell that Game Theory streamed it because if it changed the sales amount, it was so minor that it didn't affect what I think Tim said was a game that did not break even.
Yeah.
Sales.
And there's always... And there's one thing I want to point out, because I know somebody will probably leave a comment about it. Games that eventually break even, like they become a cult classic, or they get like a second shot of life, years down the road. The problem with that, of course, is very obvious. How is that studio surviving?
Only one game out of 1 million get that.
Yeah. That, and how does a studio survive waiting, 4 or 5 years for a game to break even? It doesn't work like that when we talk about releasing a game. Again, what we're talking about is not... Again, we need to clarify. Lots of ramen, yeah. You could live in a house of ramen.
There is a one way. And that's when you make your game, your first game, plan for it to fail.
Yep.
I don't mean like, specifically go out of your way to make it fail. You're going to do everything you can to make it succeed. But don't spend all your don't on it. Don't spend every last cent you have on it. Plan for, okay, we're going to release it. It's going to be a game and everything.
Mm-hmm.
but it's not going to do so well. We're
Yep.
not going to come to close to break even. We're going to fail commercially. We'll make a little bit of money, but
Mm-hmm.
probably not what it costs to make it. And
Yeah.
then we're going to take everything we learned
And then
and
make the
apply
real
it to
game.
a second game.
Yep. Make the one that we intend on being the commercial success. And
Yeah,
I honestly think that the developers who do get that first title success oftentimes end up being the first one to go out of business because they don't learn that lesson of, hey, maybe we shouldn't invest all of our money, 401ks, and, take out a second mortgage on our home to make our titles.
yeah.
And,
Like
like the
the hard
Cuphead.
lessons of game dev is often the most impactful and the most ones
Mm-hmm.
that can make you successful. I think that I've learned a lot of hard lessons with Chromasia
Yeah.
and everything, the word of the day. And I'm applying all those lessons that I learned to Project Triad and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm already thinking that Project Triad has a fairly good shot at succeeding because of all the stuff I learned the hard
Mm-hmm.
way.
Yeah. And
And
again,
part of the reason why I think the part of the reason why I do these podcasts with Josh is try to express what I learned to
mm-hmm.
new developers so that they can learn the hard way, the easy way by just
Yeah.
seeing it on video.
Yeah. And again, like what we're talking about here, I think this is another major point. This will actually, I think this could be a segue into talking more about itch in a few minutes. That if you want to release a student project or a game jam game or something that you know is not the best quality, you can do that. We're not saying you can't. But what we're
Just
saying,
don't do it on Steam or
yeah,
for a price.
yeah. But again, if you are looking into making a game that you intend to sell, as in you are going to put a price tag on, as Shark just said, you have to put work into it. Just saying, this is my weird and wacky game, give me 75 cents, that doesn't work. Because not only can I play weird and wacky games, from everybody, I could invest a few more dollars and get an amazing game.
Yeah, I mean, like you can go to any game jam
Mm-hmm.
that runs anywhere, and there's
Mm-hmm.
probably hundreds of them a year. You can go to any one of them, and I mean, you can go to them online. I don't mean you have to go to them in person, but you can go to any one of them and play hundreds and hundreds of games that were made in a days or even a month or 3 months, depending
Yeah.
on the game jam, and it's free. You don't have to, and if you can't beat that with 99 cents, then
Mm-hmm.
if you can't beat the best game jam game out there that's
Yeah.
free, and you're charging 99 cents,
Mm-hmm. And
and let me, Forger is out there as a
I was
free
just about to bring that
game
up.
jam game.
Yep, I was just about to mention Forager and Superhot. Both of those games were originally Game Jam titles, and they were really successful. They won, I think, their respective game jams. And
Hmm.
the developer could have simply said, you know what? Let's just take this Game Jam version, slap $5.99 on it, put it on Steam, we're done. They didn't do that. They spent months taking this idea and going
I think
further
it's
with
been
it.
years.
Okay. Yeah, I think one of them was too. I forget. I know Forger was a few years in development, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. So,
Forger's game jam was one I actually participated in,
yeah.
and they did with, and they that it was probably about 2 or 3 before they actually Forger actually came out on PC.
Yeah. And again, they could have went the quick and dirty route with those games, or the quick and cheap route, but they didn't.
Hmm.
And again,
They
like
wouldn't
this,
have done it anywhere well.
yeah. And this is the thing that we've spoken about at this point at length, that you can really tell when a developer spends time on their game. Like when we play some of the better games on stream and in our respective times, you can sometimes feel when that developer put everything they had into it. That this is not only a fully realized idea, but it's also polished. And polish is not something you can cheap out on. That is one of those areas that you try to ignore that, it will come back to bite you.
If you try to ignore polish, or you just go very light on the polish, you just fail.
Yeah. And, like, this is one of those...
There's a small chance, but that chance is so small to succeed that, you know, you're better off buying a lotto ticket because your chances are better on the lotto ticket.
And this is the last point that I want to mention, and then we'll do weird games, and then we'll move on to the itch. But I have seen a lot of indie games that within the first week to 2 weeks of being released, every single one of them gets a major balance, content, and bug patch of their games. And you cannot do that. You should not be releasing 1.0 of your game with major issues in it or balance problems. And I know developers say they don't have the funding for it, they need to get this game out. But it just looks really bad on you and on your game to say that 1.0 is horrible, but we want your money anyway, and then we'll try and fix it.
Yeah, the thing is that when you're selling a game, the sales look like a hockey stick in general. And what we mean by that is, I mean, it's slightly, you know, like the part that goes in your hand is on the ground, and then you have a small hockey puck underneath the corner right there. And the way it is, you know, you start at the tip, and your cells are really, really high, and then they go down really, really quick. And then there's just a slow, long drain across the next, like, 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And it just dies completely.
And to Chris's comment, sometimes you don't realize problems until it gets in the wild. Here's the sad counter to that comment. The consumer doesn't care. They do not care that you spend 6 years of your life working on a game, or that you're going bankrupt to finish it. They just see a title on a store shelf with major bugs and issues to it. And the thing is, like...
The thing is, there is, you know, what he's saying is true. Like, there's things that you won't discover unless, you know, a lot of people play it.
Yeah.
But you need to have at least a good bit of testers play it. You know, a good, you know... I mean, I had only about 5 or 6 people that were, you know, good testers kind of thing. Excuse me. But, like, you... Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Am I losing you? Oh, I think we lost Shark. Uh-oh. Shark, if you can hear me, you have gone dark again. Oh, yeah, we did lose Shark. He should be hopefully back in a second there. Yeah. Yeah. But again, I think to your comment there, Chris, how many consumers really were affected by that when they still got high quality games? And again, ultimately, the consumer is going to judge your game. And anything that stops them or anything that frustrates or pushes or detracts them from your game, they're going to take that and magnify it by 1,000.
Yeah. And the thing, what I was trying to say earlier before I got disconnected, was that, you know, when you there are things that you can't find, but you need to have a set of testers. You've got to have a set of testers. You need as many as you can get. Good. testers, not people who just play them and then don't tell you anything about it, or just
Mm-hmm.
say it's good or bad. You need actual good testers.
Mm-hmm.
And, you can get away with like 6 or so really good quality, which are really hard to get.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me about 2 years to get 6 people of that quality, and they still kind of waned in and out, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But you need lots of testing, and you need fix as many things as possible, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You need to know that when you release their game, there is no known issues, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the more testers you can get, the better that is.
Yeah.
And then when you release it, there will be things that people will find that you couldn't find with 6 people because you needed a few hundred, a few thousand, or whatnot. But your issue is going to be with 1 out of 1,000 people or 1 out of 100 people or something like that. Not like if you don't have any testers. I mean, you could have issues with your game design and just completely sink your ship, with no chance of survival. And with only 1 or 2 testers, you can have like very personal bias that is going, close off your audience. And
Mm-hmm.
need as many testers as you can get,
Yep.
and get good feedback, and have no known issues. And you will still find stuff if you're sales. You will find stuff that you didn't know about, and that's fine because every game has issues. What we're about is to
Ooh.
basically have no known issues, as good as possible testing done before you release. Because if you release with no testing, your game is again pretty much guaranteed to fail.
Mm-hmm.
Almost 100%. 99.99999. You have more chances of winning the lottery than releasing a successful game without testers.
Yep. But again, the challenge, of course, is how you get those testers, and that's another topic.
Oh yeah. That was like mission impossible. You wouldn't think it would be so hard to be like, hey, all you people out there, who wants to play a free game and tell me what's wrong with it?
Yeah.
What you would like to see changed. You wouldn't think that would be so hard. You just go out and tell people that, and you have like people lining up around, miles around the block. No. No, you tell that to hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people. Well, maybe not hundreds of thousands. You tell that to thousands of people, and you might get 5.
Yeah. All right. But I think with that,
and more than likely, 4 of those won't work out, and you'll only get one
yeah.
actual good tester out of there, and then go at it again.
Yeah. Exactly, Chris. We have a new space shuttle design we need to test. Free ride to space. What could possibly go wrong there?
Yeah.
All right, but with that, let's look at what's coming out, and then we'll talk a little bit about some of the itch games, because I think again that is kind of our segue, and we'll probably get some really good segues.
Maybe the new this page is going to be from itch.
Yeah. All right, so let's see what we have. All right, so the first one that actually came up. Here's one. Shikari Rising. And like right here, you can see the UI has some very big problems. We have
I could.
Yeah, unfortunately, Charlotte, this looks like assets, ripped assets, where the combo line here, time, and this inventory. The health and mana bar, they look original. But I love this description.
From a different asset pack.
Yeah. I love this description. The game is an action-adventure plat-former game. Not platformer, a platformer game. and I love consists of first level of the game with one boss fight and one true boss fight at the end. So, wait, what? I'm assuming they mean a mini boss and a fight, but it's one level long, average of 1 to 2 hours to beat the game.
How is one level, 1 to 2 hours to beat the game? Kaizo game, and you just got to play it so many thousands of times before you actually can make it through that one level.
Yeah, that's again. Oh, you say the health bar in it? I wonder if they ever that off from WoW, the health and mana bar. Let's see. Whiskey.
That's one long level.
Whiskey period Mafia period Leo's family. Inspired the best mafia dramas, recreate an amazing movie, air quotes. Wait. Oh, it's not just a game, it's a whole story. Yes.
What if you made a platformer where the levels were like 20 minutes long and there was no checkpoints and one hit would kill you? But it wasn't overly hard. It was just normal kind of difficulty.
Again, you gotta be really careful with that kind of pacing.
Yeah, that's a lot of red flags I just there.
In this game, there is no description of what the gameplay is. The features are more than 10 game locations, various mini-games, achievements, a non-linear plot. I don't see any gameplay. What is gameplay?
What? I'm honestly scared to go back and look at the Steam page for Chromasia.
Uh-oh.
Because I'm sure I made so many mistakes on that.
Now, this one actually gives me some potential. Wasted Worlds. It's a game where it's a garbage management action adventure. You can build structures for waste management and then protect them. Use vehicles to traverse the surface of each planet, and then the planet will return to its original glory. So it kind of sounds like Wall-E, the game. Wall-E Tower Defense.
Yeah. Wall-E Defense.
So this one does not look that bad. The screenshots have a unique look to them. I don't think it's an amazing look. Yep, I'm sorry. Can you hear me? Uh-oh. I think we lost Shark again. Test. Can you hear me? Uh-oh. Test. We lost him again. Alright. While we're waiting for Shark to get back, hopefully. Oh, it's an indie game. Paco and the Tumbling Seed Box. Another Tuhu. Blue Planet VR. Oh. Hey, Matthew. Let's see. What? Detective Solitaire, Inspector Magic, and the Man Without Face. Oh, without a face. They didn't do the title right. What? Oh, good. It has ads, but you can make a purchase to disable them. Hello, Sinan. Uh-oh. We really did lose Shark. Lithium City. Why does this sound familiar? Weapons. Stylish isometric art blends 2D and 3D. I'm assuming there's synthwave here. That is a lot of purple in these screenshots. There can never be enough Tuhu. My only thing is that I don't know if this is turn-based or real-time. I'm assuming this is real-time. Watch, this will be a time when we can't get Shark, that we find all the really great games. 3D top-down roguelite shooter. Procedurally generated maps, of course it does. All feedback is treasured. That's what every developer needs to say. Quarantine is alright. I've been busy, so I haven't noticed too much. Realm of Heroes. What? Strategy game. Looks like a tabletop game. Speaking about not having an aesthetic, we have this game. Bad Guys at Schools. Bad Guys at School. Oh no. What the hell? What the hell was that? Oh my god. That is one murdered student. Did you just hit him with the gravity gun? Oh, I think I hear Shark.
There we go. Had to reboot my phone.
Oh my god, you are missing one game right here.
Uh-oh.
Oh my god, that's like goat simulator physics right there.
Yeah, that's a lot of red flags.
Why is that kid dressed
By
as
the way,
Elvis?
if your goal is to make a game like Goat Simulator, don't.
There's Desperados, Final Hope, The Waylanders. I think I have a key for this. Yeah, I think I do. I think it's under Embargo. I think we'll look at that for the next Indie Spotlight. Summer in Mara. Yeah. And colorblind, or dealing with like having colorblind options and accessibility. That's another topic.
Or just building it into your game.
The Russian Quiz. Okay. By the Culture. City Runner.
And keep in mind, there's just colorblind. There's I don't remember the name of the illness, but one of my testers for Chromasia had it, and it was something that had to do with animations. He couldn't see, like, anything that moved a particular way or too fast would mess with his eyes, and he couldn't see it. It would give him headaches.
So apparently, the co-creator of Halo has a new independent studio, and they're working on the sci-fi first-person shooter combining FPS and real-time strategy elements game Disintegration.
AKA Halo?
I guess.
Original Halo? Because originally it was before they, kind of converted it to just your FPS kind of thing, because something didn't work. I can't remember. It was Halo before it released was exactly that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What? I love the name of the hero in Disintegration. Romer Shoal. Again, coming up with good names for characters is a nightmare. Okay.
Everybody's got, you need to come up with an invention for your game. My game was both easy and hard to make. The easy part of it is very.
Shark, you are cutting in and out there really bad. Wait, I think you may be back. Yeah. This one does not look that bad. Chaos Galaxy. Inspired by games like Advance Wars, Super Robot War, and Romance of the Three Kingdoms. Retro-style turn-based grand strategy.
Got my attention.
Yeah, this.
That. And then I'll wonder when you play it, where did this game come from? Like we did that in the last Weird Game segment. I don't remember it.
Mm-hmm. Alright, we have a hentai game. We can't click on that. We have a game called Martian Potato. What?
No, that's red flags right there.
What the hell are these screen...
Yep.
What?
Red flags.
Okay, this looks like an asset flip. I don't know why it looks like a World of Warcraft weapon is being used on Mars.
It probably is.
Oh my god. We have a game called Go Home. Oh god. I think you're dodging a bullet on this, seeing some of these screenshots.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Let's see. Danger Scavenger. Dino Rog? You play as a combat robot in a simulation.
I hope you don't hear this.
Oh, I'm hearing it.
Oh no.
Rune the
How
First
about
Wanderer. Okay, not as bad. Oh. I like the
I'm trying to
pixel
pull up my phone.
graphics. This has some really good pixel graphics, but I'm not sure what this gameplay is. It says it's a story-driven game, but it has real-time combat.
Sounds like an action RPG.
Eh. We did play Tesla Force last week on the Indie Spotlight. Yeah, it's kind of a revamp of Tesla versus Lovecraft. Although it's still not there yet. I think it's still like pre-alpha right now. Or pre-beta. Let's see, the creator. And the creator slipped in the world from a collection of exhibits.
We had a talk before on what alpha and beta was, didn't we?
I think so. Alien Scumbags. Cross the Grooves. Is this a visual? Yep, it's a graphic novel.
A graphic novel.
With high replayability. Oh, here's a game, Florida Simulator 1986.
You know what they need to do is Florida Man Simulator.
Project Starship X, roguelite shooter. What?
I don't think most games should name their game project something. It should just be their temporary name until they come up with a permanent one.
And it features Swag Thulu instead of Cthulhu.
Swag Thulu.
Okay. Game scene.
The pictures would have been all the context on that one.
Yeah, you should watch the stream when we're done.
The Swag Thulu. Like, that's either really clever or really memey.
Up here's another game created by the students of Digipen. What? Looks like it's a fast-paced precision platformer. Chain your dashes, slow down time. I can't even pronounce this title. I don't even know if this is like a real title. I'm in trouble for saying it.
You might.
Let's see how well it's going to PC. Westmark Manor. Ooh, Bourbon Empire. And there's a game called Beer. Just Beer.
A game called Beer?
Yeah.
Hey man, you want some beer? Yeah, right here. Just play it.
There's that Tainted Grail game. Outside the Grid, Rugby Union. Oh good, an 18 plus patch for a game called Sable's Grimoire. And I don't really want to click on an 18 plus patch. That just sounds very troubling.
It sounds very safe for work.
Oh, here's a title I can't mention.
Can you say words of it?
I don't know. May flag the algorithm. Samurai
There's
Cooking.
no safe words in there.
The Academy. What? Ooh, solve puzzles and riddles. Ooh, a school with rich lore to it. Alright. But I think with that, this will be our...
call the richest lore?
Eh. Oh, here's a game, VR Furry Dance.
Now, you should get a key to that one.
Oh, yes. What the hell is this? Looks like a... What? I don't even know what this game is. But these are some screenshots.
Do they show UI in it?
Somewhat.
Well, at least they didn't make that mistake.
The problem, like, Chad is talking about ARPGs and roguelikes in terms of story. Like, it's very hard to do stories in those games, especially if you're trying to create a custom character. But they're always focused on the power phase or the power leveling. You know, you have a boss who says, "I'm impossible to defeat," and you have, level 70 gear.
And then you just one-shot it.
Yeah. But it's almost 6. I just have to get going in the next 20 or so minutes. So let's get to our final topic. And let's talk a little bit about itch games. Or about putting your game on itch. As everybody who knows, the indie developers on itch put together a bundle to raise money for Black Lives Matter. And I think for several charities related to it. And that bundle came with about 1,640 different projects. And it has suddenly given a lot of people not only a major backlog, but kind of a chance to see what the wide scope of indie means to some developers. And the problem that I ran into while playing these games, this is one of the reasons why we don't look at too many itch games for the Weird Games segment, is that a lot of them don't really feel like completed projects. They feel like prototypes. And when I was talking to Shark about this earlier, we mentioned, or we talked about how games that didn't have a price tag, but a lot of these games had price tags. And again, this is why the designing games on the cheap topic came first.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of those things that I hate to say, but like putting your game on itch is not, I hate to say, it's not that feather in the cap that I think a lot of people think it is.
I mean, it's a feather in the cap to say you made something.
Yeah.
It's not a feather in the cap to sell anything or run a business on or make any kind of money or anything, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'll probably put Project Chart on there just for the sake of it, but that's not going to be. The focus is probably going to try to be our website as much as possible.
Yeah.
Of course, that's going to probably fall pretty short on actually being the main place where it actually goes.
And this, I think, is going to be a very interesting point for a lot of indie developers, that mainstream consumers are going to be exposed to these games for the first time. And it just makes me wonder what a lot of people are going to think about these games.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, this is, I think, one of those issues that we've talked about before with kind of that stepping up of going from a hobbyist to an actual commercial game developer. And when I see a lot of these games on itch, that...
They scream hobbyist.
Yes. And...
Yeah, that's why I was like, bundle for money on itch. I mean, that sounds like a lot of red flags right there.
Mm-hmm.
It was 1,600 games, right?
Oh, it's, I think, 1,600 projects, not games.
1,600 projects. That sounds like about 2 million red flags.
Mm-hmm. And to Chris's point, I should think of it more like as a talent show. I think, yeah, that is kind of apt here. That
which a talent show is to a hobbyist.
Yeah. And, like, there are legitimate games on itch. Again, there are developers who have released games on itch as they do on Steam. But a lot of the titles that are on itch, or a lot of the ones in that bundle, are exclusive to itch. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly, Igor. Like Celeste is included. That makes the $5 worth it on its own. And yeah,
Oh,
like,
El Gordo's back.
oh, he is
Didn't you say El Gordo?
Igor, not El Gordo.
Oh.
Yeah, and yeah, like a few of the high profile games are certainly selling that bundle, but for people who are going to like dig into some of those games, like some of them aren't don't have a price tag to them. You can donate if you want, but there are some out there with a price of like $1, 75 cents, $2.99, somewhere I think $9.99, and
Mm.
it's one of those cases. Yeah, first it is free. I know, Ryu. It's one of those cases where I hate to, again, like this is me being my most, this is me at probably one of my most cynical, that I don't want developers to think that, the games that are on itch are the model to go by if you're expecting to make this a living.
Yeah, that's the model to go by if you want to do a hobbyist.
Yeah. And like we said, there's
And
nothing.
just taking your hobbyist game and putting it on Steam
Mhm.
is just a waste of $100.
Yeah. And like we've
And
said,
a lot
like
of paperwork.
there's nothing wrong with making games as a hobby or putting games on itch.
In fact, you kind of should start off that way.
Yeah. But what
Because
we're
you've got to learn before you go to commercial.
saying is that if you put your game on itch and that is your only metric for making a game, you are going to be in for a very harsh reality check if you try to go onto Steam or GOG or Humble or whatever. And in many cases, those stores will not accept your game.
Yeah. Well, humble.
Oh.
The word of the day.
Mm-hmm.
They would not accept. You can't sell that on our platform.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, some of the stuff that I've played, we've been trying to do like one itch game a night. Some of them are really impressive in terms of their idea or concept, but that's where it kind of stops. Like, it's a really good concept, but it's not something that's going to make me want to spend money explicitly on that game.
Yeah. Here's the question. The initial time you played Alpha 2.1 of you've definitely seen a lot of potential there, but would you have paid 99 cents for that?
No. Definitely no.
Yeah.
And again, this is the issue that a lot of consumers are facing, that it's no longer a case of not having enough money. We don't have enough time. And time is valuable to the consumer. Time is valuable to everyone, I should say. But
time is money.
Yeah. Why? And like this is like kind of the thing. Like I look at these games, and I see a fun idea. I don't see a product. And as we've said in the last part, it's no longer business versus the art. It's business and art. You have to treat them both equally. And if you don't, you're not going to be able to live off of your games.
Yep.
I know.
About earlier about we talked about in the past that don't make your entire game and have no idea what kind of business model you're going to run, and then like at the end, get free to play and tack on a bunch of microtransactions. That never ends well.
Yeah. And then there's a few.
You know how you're going to sell your game before while you're in the early stages of making it. Not necessarily before you make it, but the first few hours you should know how you're going to sell it.
Yeah.
I knew when we first started to try it, and this is going to have to, you're going to have to have microtransactions to buy card packs. This is going to have to be more like your traditional card game.
Yeah.
This is going to have to be a free-to-play game.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, I don't even want to get to free-to-play, but this is what we're making, so let's go.
Yeah. And like when we look at some of these indie games, like some of these titles, like they had no shot at making money. Like absolutely, positively no way. Just by like their titles alone. Like you remember that game
Mm-hmm.
with the developer with like 125 heroes or whatever it was,
I think it was 101 or
something like
something.
that. Like just that title alone is not market friendly. And
Yeah, being an RPG Maker game with barely any, with like basically no effort, farther shot that nail in the coffin. You know, I don't know how that took him. What was it, 17 years to make? Like,
I think he's still
I could have
making
just,
it.
I could have popped into RPG Maker
Hmm.
for like 2 minutes. Not even made a single asset. Well, maybe 2 minutes,
Hmm.
10 minutes. Not made a single asset, and have a way better
Yeah.
in 10 minutes.
Yep. And again, like as we said, there's nothing wrong with making these as your hobby. But if you're taking the lessons of putting your game onto itch and thinking that they apply to going commercial, it's not going to work. And like we've this is kind of one of the lessons I think we've said so many times on these casts, that you can tell when a developer does it right. There's a difference between when we look at lesser games and we look at something like Slay the Spire, Dead Cells, Monster Train, Stardew Valley, FTL, etc. That there's that there's that X factor that I think a lot of developers don't quite get when they look at a game that succeeds.
Yeah, heck, a lot of the make it often don't see
Yeah,
that, know that X factor themselves, and they made the X factor.
yeah. And there's like this is one of those things that this drove me kind of crazy. I was on Twitter and somebody was posting a response saying because Valve wasn't responding fast enough, or they didn't put out the same about Black Lives Matter, they were going to take their game. They were never going to put a game on Steam again, and they were going to exclusively go onto itch. And I was just sitting there thinking, that is a dead developer. Like again,
That's a never born. That's a stillborn developer.
yeah, like
They were never born, and they were just dead on arrival.
yeah, and again, you have to understand that there, again, like this is one of those topics that we could just rant for 5 hours on. That
Yeah,
making,
I think we need a little bit of clarification though. Like
Mhm.
saying you have to put your game on Steam, but if you're going, we're saying that if you go solely itch, you're pretty much dead.
yeah, and again, like if they
I
do,
know this one developer
hmm
that put a game on itch, and he was talking about how successful it was and everything.
hmm
And it was kind of driving me nuts and everything. And he's all bragging about it. And he found out that he had sold 10 copies at $10, and I looked at it,
mm,
and it was basically an asset.
hmm
It was not technically an asset, but it looked. And it was horrible, horrible low quality. It's like, how did you find 10 people, 10 suckers to buy that for $10? I couldn't even hardly sell my legit game for
and
that.
it's the issue I think of having a free platform or an open platform, that when there are no barriers of entry, it also means there's no metrics or measures of quality as well. And this is one of those things that again, a lot of developers have talked about why having some level of curation is good for a store. And why, again, more people want that for Steam, although Valve probably is never going to do that. Although maybe if Epic
Yeah,
does it first, maybe Valve will get, the inspiration for it. And
yeah,
there's something like this was something I was talking with Josh about, not this Josh, but another Josh. We were discussing podcasting versus radio and why there is such a huge barrier of entry to get onto radio. And he talked about how podcasting basically became, the everyman's radio. Anyone with a microphone. Hell, this guy with a microphone made a podcast. And the problem, though, is if everybody is doing it, there's no way to really differentiate the good from the bad. And one of the things about radio is that they are very strict and stringent about who gets on a radio broadcast. And it's one of the reasons why you kind of make it if you can do that. And this was kind of what Steam was like, the original version of Steam, when it was closed off. That if you could
every game they got on,
did
gangbusters. If you got on Steam, you had it made.
It was the golden ticket.
And now if you got it on Steam, now if you get it on Steam, it means you paid $100. And that's what it means. It doesn't mean anything, but you spent $100. You may have wasted $100, or you may have made a good choice with the $100. But either way, it just means that you paid $100. But back then, it meant that you were golden. You were guaranteed. You were in the limelight. You were, you were the one person out in the spotlight, and everybody's eyes were on you.
Yep. And to Chris's point, one person's bad is another person's good. That is true to the platform. Yeah. Like, there are people out there who do not care about PewDiePie at all. He is a blip to them. And, like, this is something that I ran into with publishing my book, and the difference between a self-publishing and being published by a major name. I have a family. I have two family members who self-publish a series of books. And, they brag about it. That, he's, I think, up to his 6th self-published book. But the problem, again, is that there is a sense of notoriety when somebody chooses you. When you have somebody else behind you with your game, or when you are allowed to do that. And this is why I went with the publish route, because I knew that they were going to take a lot of the money. I knew I was never going to earn as much money, getting it published versus being self-published. But I knew at the end of the day that being published comes with a higher level of notoriety. It's something that I can say when I talk to my libraries, or talk to libraries and schools. And that's another big point about this. A major institution does not care that you are self-published. Like, again, if I go to YouTube, or, like, imagine if I had, like, PewDiePie's clout, or PewDiePie's reputation, and I went to a library, or to an institution and say that I want to give a public speaking. If I just said to them, I have 5 million subscribers on YouTube, they would be like, so? What does that mean to us? Like, you need, in order for you to grow, or to be recognizable, you need to have credence. You need to have credibility to your name. And saying that and this is one of those things.
It doesn't exactly work that way for game publishing.
Yeah. And
that's like a completely different amount.
That's
that 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that's another topic right there. And the point is that that just putting your game out there, as we've said, is not enough. And to Igor's point, isn't it better for the indie community as a whole if you're not held back? That is true to some extent, but if you're not able to learn from why your game does good or bad, like, this is one of those things this is another thing that just kind of, my mind, I had an out-by experience when I read this, that there were any developers telling people, do not review a game on itch if you don't want to give it 5 stars. Because anything less than 5 stars hurts it in the algorithm. And no, like, I hate to say this, but you cannot tell people not to review a game or review it amazing. because
Yeah,
you
that's
need.
just crap. 'Cause then you're every game's 100% rating, and guess what? That really crappy game,
Hmm.
it does just as well as your really amazing game.
Yeah.
If you're going to rate games, don't put games on there because or
Hmm.
don't put good games on there. Just put stuff that you just crapped out in 5 minutes
Yeah. And
and call it.
And to Igor's comment there about because someone thinks your game is bad. Well, the thing is, people are going to think your game is bad. That's the nature of the consumer market. And unfortunately, if you're not exposed to people heavily criticizing your game like that,
You're
it,
going to
it
fail.
is going to hurt you. It will come back to hurt you. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but it will.
Yeah, it's basically being inside your own echo chamber.
Yeah.
And when you're inside your own echo chamber,
It
the rest of the world doesn't matter.
No, it does
The world
not.
doesn't matter. Your game doesn't matter to the rest of the world.
Yeah. And like we're
If the rest of
saying,
the world doesn't matter, you got to matter to the rest of the world for the rest of the world to matter to you.
yeah. And like we're
Or
saying,
maybe
like
the other way.
if you have no care or wanting to do this commercially, then ignore everything that we're saying. This does not concern you. But
No,
if you are
this is
somebody who wants to take that step into being a commercial game developer, these are lessons you have to learn. This is again why I turn to developers like Cliff Harris and Jake Burgett.
yep. Critical feedback is then you didn't have testers on your game. If you didn't have testers on your game, you just failed.
Mm-hmm.
And critical feedback is your friend. If you don't go back, don't ever become a professional game developer.
Oh yes.
Basically, and if you can't accept that kind of critical feedback, don't ever become a professional game developer. Just do whatever kind of hobby project. And don't release it on Steam. Release it, on itch, on a website, wherever. Just not on
Put
Steam.
on a portfolio, whatever, like that. And again, like there is nothing wrong with having a portfolio of game concepts. But this is one of the reasons.
I got a ton of.
Yeah. But again, this is why there is that. I don't think developers want to admit this, but there is that wall between being a hobbyist and a commercial developer. And
Oh yeah, it's very steep.
yeah. And just because, again, you and your 10 friends or you and 5 people on itch really like your game doesn't mean that this is going to be a big commercial success.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to
Those 5 people may have just been 5 people that was too afraid to give you criticism.
yeah, and to a Worms comment,
If they can't say anything negative about your game, they're not worthwhile.
yeah, and to Worms comment, I feel being commercial and being realistic don't always make the best mental friends. Yeah, that is pretty much true right there. And like I've seen or I've like heard like developers who they'll break down and cry or they'll go into a tailspin if somebody says something bad or negative about their game. Even if it's something as I think these controls are a little clumsy. No, like you need to develop a thick skin or you need somebody to do the PR and community outreach for you.
Yeah, I mean like they're going to have to tell you to change your controls.
Oh yes.
I have to listen to them. Like that's not even having a paper thin skin. But I don't even think you need to have a thick skin. Like you just have to, not take things personally. Like it's a game. It's not you. They're not criticizing you because the controls are bad. They're saying that hey, you need to work your magic in here to make this better.
Yeah.
They're not saying you're a bad person or anything. Don't attack yourself to your game. They're making it. You are not make yourself and then selling yourself. That's a
Mm-hmm.
title.
Oh, shark's
In
on a
which
little
case,
bot
maybe,
there. Yeah.
which in which case maybe at that might take us to heart. But like, but that's only in that not work
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
skill.
Yeah.
But you should take these. They're telling you what to make better in your game.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to make a great, and I don't know too much that want to make a great game. This and
Oh.
see about you need to change
Mm-hmm.
if
Yeah.
you need to change anything, but don't change nothing because that's just foreign feedback.
Yeah.
But
Eh,
feedback isn't always 100%. We had a podcast on before too.
yeah. And like this is another thing. Like again, like success also means different things to different people. Like for some developers, getting 50 copies sold of your game is a massive success. It is, my God, my game is amazing. To somebody else, 50
Or even
copies means,
5.
yep. And again, like this is, I think, a topic for another time about what success means. I think ultimately,
Yeah, I mean,
ultimately, if you can,
back to the topic of
yeah,
the word of the day, Chromation. It did not succeed.
mm-hmm,
He sold 127 copies, and how I define succeeding commercially, anyway. There's
mm-hmm,
two different kinds of succeeding,
mm-hmm,
but we're talking about commercially right now. The way I consider succeeding commercially is you broke even. The money
yeah,
that you put it, the money and time you put
mm-hmm,
into the game, is what you got out of it.
yeah,
So if you were, if you were willing, say you didn't pay yourself, which most people don't,
mm-hmm,
unless you have a actual, payroll and everything. But if your time, like if you put in, if you were, if somebody had to do that thing, would you have done that for $10? Not. You would have probably wanted a good, few thousand for it, maybe a couple thousand, maybe 500. I don't know,
mm-hmm,
depending on what. But you can't discount what you did. And what I would say to break even is that full price,
mm-hmm,
what you would have paid yourself to do this, and everything to do this, and every tool you bought, every bit of electricity you spent, every bit of everything that you invested into it, you got all. That's breaking even. Commercial.
yeah,
Anything beyond that is icing cake and very, very good and very much the goal.
yeah,
Just break even, but breaking even is that bottom line that
yeah,
that we're like, if we keep on doing this, we can keep on going.
mm-hmm,
Can't make any bigger games, but we can keep on making this games as long as we keep on breaking even.
mm-hmm,
And you more than break even, that means you can go more ambitious games and do more and everything, and potentially do.
oh,
But that's that line there on commercial.
yeah,
Now then, if we're talking about experience success or just like
mm-hmm,
that could be many things. That could be like having 100% review score.
mm-hmm,
It can be having a game that the 5 people that played it love it.
yeah,
That could be that you actually finished a game.
yeah, and this is why we
It
say
could be
that.
that you finished a demo.
Yep, and this is why we say that your first title or your first, finished game, your goal should just be to get that game out. You shouldn't be thinking my
Mm-hmm.
first game is going to sell 5 million copies and I can retire off of that game.
Yeah.
And
Game dev is not a get rich quit scheme. It's a get
No.
poor quit scheme.
yeah, maybe get rich if you get struck by lightning.
3 times in a row, and then win the lottery ticket, and then you get struck by lightning 3 more times, and then win another lottery 5 minutes later. That
Yeah, and I think with that, I do have to get going now, but I guess my final thought for this piece, and I'll throw it to you, Shark. Like, I do think there is a. Itch definitely deserves to exist. I think there definitely needs to be kind of a centralized source for letting developers share all the crazy, weird, inventive, unique titles that they want to make.
Oh, absolutely.
But at the end of the day, if you want to
Don't
take this seriously, you need to. You have to elevate.
Seriously.
Yeah, I think that's a point in there. You have to take it seriously, and again, that means doing the business of making a game, getting playtesters, getting feedback, thinking beyond just you and 5 people who enjoy your game. And this is why I've said before that just make video games is not the metric anymore. What was that?
Just make video games and profit.
Yeah. You need to learn from that. You need to be able to grow. This is again why many developers say that their first project was horrible because they didn't learn. They didn't have that knowledge. And why somebody who, after working on 3, 4, 5, 6 titles, they could probably remake their first game in a quarter of the time with all the knowledge they've learned. But surviving and thriving long enough to get to that point is what's going to make you hopefully a commercial game developer.
Yeah. You've got to learn.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to go straight off into, making a professional game.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to learn by making those little hobbyist projects, making those, little prototypes and stuff, showing those off on Itch and whatnot, wherever you can show it. $100 and list on Steam. Because that does you a disservice because you're going to get insulted and rained on for making the best thing you can do, and at the same time it's going to flood the Steam marketplace, make it where professional game developers then have to go through extra means to be able to have a chance at succeeding. And the other thing is that you've got to, after you get that point, you got to make those prototypes and everything, build up your skills and build up your knowledge base, and you need critical feedback on Itch, because you don't learn if people don't point out anything to learn from. It's like if you go to school and there's no teacher.
Yeah, it's just the students
the
just
teacher,
talk.
Or maybe there is a teacher, but she just says, here's your classwork, and then sets down, and then you got to figure it out on your own, and then you turn it in, and she never gives you your grades back.
Yeah, you have to.
If you're not graded, then you don't know where you messed up.
Yep, you have
and if you don't know where you messed up, then you can't improve, you can't get better, and you're just making F's forever, but never knowing about it.
You need to learn. Again, this is why I say there's no such thing as a perfect game, because there's always going to be issues. There's always going to be something that could have been done differently, or just because you design your game to be X, maybe somebody doesn't like X. Maybe they like Y. But you have to be able to learn and grow if you want to succeed as a game developer. And again, if all you're doing is just remaking the same game concept again and again and again, and you're not really learning or taking anything away from that, it's not going to allow you, it's not going to give you that knowledge that you need to understand in terms of taking that a step further. And this is kind of the major point for our video, for what we've talked about, that the bar has been raised. Making a video game does not mean success. And you have to do a lot to get somebody to notice your game. If somebody like me who plays just about every game gets sent to me, if I don't want to play your game, what makes you think the millions of people on Steam are going to give your game the time of day?
No, they're not going to give it the time of day, and they'll probably insult you
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, Steam is bad at having not everybody, but like a certain segment of it,
Mm-hmm.
very very toxic people.
Oh yes. And like we say, if you do not have a thick skin, stay away from the Steam forums. Just stay far away. Hmm. Developers supposedly use the same gameplay for like the last 4 or 5 games. Eh. And again, like, is there any iteration? Is there any growth? I think we may have lost Shark again. Are you still there? Uh-oh. And ultimately, can you see a growth between those games? Oh, wait. Are you back? Oh, I think I hear him. Yeah.
Where was that left off?
We were talking about. We just moved on to talking about a developer who's used the same gameplay for like the last 4 or 5 games. Oh, Technomancer Greedfall. I think I've heard of that. And like, you have to be able to see growth. You have to be able
Wasn't
to.
that made by some community?
Maybe, I don't know. But I do have to get going now. Greedfall. Oh, Spiders of Orcs and Men. Oh, so they made more as Warlocks, Technomancer. Okay. Yeah, so they're focused on that kind of like third-person RPG kind of design. And yeah, you can see, again, and that's important, that you can see that there's a growth in quality. That they took lessons from their previous games. It's not just remaking the same game again and again and again with no real change.
Yeah, I know a programmer friend of mine a while back that and he would get a game and he would program it like 30% done, and he's like, oh, this code's all crap, let me reprogram it, start from scratch, and then he would program it again up to 30%. Oh, this code's better, but it's still all crap, let me reprogram it. And 3 years later, hey, this game's 30% done.
Yep.
Oh, let me reprogram it.
All right, but I do have to get going for tonight, so we'll wrap things up here. We will continue to be looking at the many games on the itch bundle, and yeah, your 75 rebuild. Yeah.
And hopefully next podcast I'm not on my dang phone and I'm on a PC.
No more robotic shark.
Professional mic. Yeah.
All right.
Which is the same mic that getting someday.
Yeah, maybe. Someday, maybe. We'll see. But if you want to follow me, I am on Twitter at GWBicer. There are links to our Discord and Patreon linked down below. And since since his voice is cutting up robotically, I'll mention it. You can find him on Twitter at Nexus Games. What was it? Nexus Games Inc. 1? Let's see.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nexus Games Inc. 1 is his. There is a link to his Discord down below as well. We will be back next Sunday around 4:30 EDT for our next stream. I will be back later tonight for our regular game streams, and come back for daily discussions on game design here and on game wisdom, where is in the art and science of games. Have a great evening, everybody, and we'll talk to you later.